Commander Jay stood at the edge of the landing platform, staring at the alien world before him. The twin suns cast a soft golden light over the landscape, turning the sky into a mixture of pink and orange. Strange, tall plants swayed even though there was no wind, their leaves glowing faintly with colors Jace had never seen. The mountains in the distance seemed alive, moving slowly like giants breathing under the horizon. Jace felt a strange mix of excitement and unease. He had traveled across light years to make contact with this civilization, but nothing in his training could prepare him for the beauty and strangeness that surrounded him. As he stepped off the ship, his boots making soft impressions on the glowing soil, he noticed movement near the settlement. A female alien emerged from the shimmering walls of a structure made of living crystals. Her skin sparkled like silver mist, and her eyes were deep, dark pools reflecting intelligence and curiosity. Jace felt his chest tighten. He had seen aliens before, on screens and reports, but nothing had prepared him for this presence. Something about her made him forget the mission, forget the protocol, even forget the warnings in his mind. She looked at him for a long moment, tilting her head slightly, as if testing him, as if inviting him to step closer. He tried to steady himself. This was a diplomatic mission. He was supposed to observe, report, and avoid any actions that could be misinterpreted. But the pull he felt was stronger than reason. His hand instinctively reached toward his communicator to signal the crew to follow, but he hesitated. The alien did not retreat. Instead, she took a small step forward, her gaze unwavering. She was not afraid. That simple act of courage, or perhaps curiosity, made Jace realize that she had just offered him something rare: trust. Jace followed her instinctively. They walked through a narrow corridor of living walls that pulsed gently under their touch. Every surface seemed alive, almost breathing. Light danced across the crystalline floor, reflecting in her eyes and making them glow with even more intensity. Jace's heart raced, and he could feel a strange warmth spreading through him. He was trained for war, for diplomacy, for making first contact safely, but none of that mattered now. Every step he took closer to her felt like stepping into a new world, one that was not just alien in appearance, but alien in emotion. She stopped in front of a large doorway carved from a single crystal slab. The surface shimmered and then slid open silently, revealing a small room inside. The interior was simple yet elegant. Soft bioluminescent lights illuminated the walls, and strange floating plants hovered in the air, drifting gently like tiny stars. Jace stepped in cautiously. The alien waited, her eyes never leaving his. She gestured toward a low platform in the center, inviting him to sit. Something about her gestures was both formal and personal, as if she understood human body language more than any alien should. Jace sat, feeling a strange tension in the air. He was aware of every sound, the soft hum of the walls, the faint clicking of his own equipment, and the subtle rhythm of her breathing. She stepped closer, and the space between them seemed to shrink, though neither moved aggressively. There was no fear, no hostility, only curiosity. Jace could feel his own breath quicken, a mixture of anticipation and awe. He had come to study this species, but he found himself being studied in return. Her eyes softened, and for the first time she spoke, not in words but a gentle vibration that resonated through the air. Jace felt it in his chest, a hum of understanding that bypassed language. He realized that communication here was more than sound or words. It was connection, trust, and awareness. Every instinct he had screamed caution, but every fiber of his being told him to stay, to learn, to feel. In that moment, Jace understood something profound. This world was not just a mission. It was a chance to bridge the impossible, to reach across the vast gulf between human and alien and find a spark of understanding that no training manual could teach. And as he looked at her, silver skin glowing softly under the light, he felt a deep, unshakable certainty. This encounter would change him forever. The alien led Jace deeper into the crystal structure, her movements graceful and fluid. Every step she took left a faint shimmer in the air, like dust catching sunlight, and Jace found himself mesmerized. He had walked into countless buildings on human colonies, but nothing he had seen compared to this. The walls seemed alive, shifting subtly, and soft hums of energy flowed beneath his feet. The air smelled faintly sweet, like flowers he had never known, and yet it carried a sense of calm. He realized this place was more than a home, it was a living being in itself. She paused in front of a small doorway, its surface smooth and reflective. With a subtle motion of her hand, it slid open, revealing a cozy chamber bathed in soft blue light. The room was small but inviting, furnished with materials that seemed to float in the air rather than sit on the floor. He stepped inside, heart beating fast. The door slid closed behind him, and without warning it locked. A quiet click resonated, and Jace's instinct immediately warned him. Protocols dictated that no human should be alone with an alien, no matter how friendly. Yet when he looked at her, there was no fear in her eyes. She didn't step back. She didn't even glance at the door. Jace's hand hovered over the control panel, the impulse to unlock it screaming at him, but something in her gaze stopped him. There was no hesitation in her eyes, only trust and curiosity. She tilted her head as if asking a silent question. "Are you ready to understand?" He swallowed hard. He was a commander, a human representative trained to keep boundaries, to maintain order. Yet here, in this living room of soft light and floating flora, he felt a strange pull. A pull to step beyond rules, beyond fear, and simply connect. She stepped closer, and Jace could see every detail of her form. Her skin glimmered with a faint silver glow, shifting subtly with the light, and her eyes seemed to hold entire galaxies within them. He had met aliens before, but none had been this expressive. There was intelligence, yes, but also something else, an emotion he could feel radiating like warmth in the room. It made him feel exposed, vulnerable, and strangely alive. Tentatively, he reached out his hand. She didn't flinch. Instead, she extended her own, and their fingers met in the middle, brushing lightly at first, then more deliberately. A current of sensation passed through him, not physical but emotional. It was as though the room itself was amplifying their connection. He had expected fear, caution, maybe even aggression, but she only offered understanding. And in return, he felt a deep respect blossoming in his chest, a respect for this being, for her culture, for the trust she placed in him without a single word. They moved to the center of the room together, hands still lightly touching. Floating orbs of light swirled around them, casting soft shadows that danced across their faces. Jace noticed the subtle changes in her glow, the rhythm of her pulse matching the quiet hum of the walls. He realized that the room responded to her presence, and now to theirs. Every instinct screamed caution, yet every emotion pulled him closer. For the first time in his life, Jace felt completely unguarded. He didn't know what would happen next, and yet he wasn't afraid. She tilted her head again, and this small gesture carried more meaning than any words could. It was permission, invitation, and challenge all at once. He realized then that locking the door had not been a barrier. It had created a space where both could truly see each other, beyond ranks, beyond species, beyond protocol. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. Every glance, every touch, every small movement communicated more than words could. Jace understood that he had been trained to observe alien behavior, but this was beyond observation. It was connection, pure and unfiltered. And somewhere deep inside, he knew this moment would define not just his mission, but the very future of humanity's place in the stars. As he finally let his hand fall from hers, he met her gaze fully, and she held it. No words were needed. The door remained locked, the room alive, and in that quiet, suspended moment, Jace felt something stir within him that he had never felt before. A deep, unshakable certainty that whatever came next, he and this alien woman were bound in a way that transcended fear, rules, and even reason itself. Jace and the alien remained in the softly glowing room, the locked door behind them fading into insignificance. Time seemed to stretch, slowing around them, as though the world outside had disappeared entirely. He could hear the faint hum of the building, the subtle pulse of light from the walls, and the quiet rhythm of her breathing. Every sound, every movement seemed amplified, carrying a weight of meaning that he had never experienced before. She stepped closer, and he could feel the warmth radiating from her form. Her eyes met his, wide and luminous, holding questions and understanding at the same time. Jace reached out, almost instinctively, to brush a strand of silver glimmering hair from her face. She didn't flinch. Instead, she leaned slightly into his touch, her eyes softening. It was a gesture that spoke of trust, acceptance, and curiosity all at once. His heart beat faster, not with fear, but with the realization that this moment was rare, fragile, and precious. The alien extended her hand again, this time not just touching his arm but resting gently in his palm. Jace felt an electric shiver run through him, a connection deeper than any conversation, deeper than any protocol could ever explain. Words felt clumsy, unnecessary. He realized that communication here was not about language. It was about presence, about attention, about understanding without needing to speak. Each subtle motion, each glance, each faint shimmer of her skin carried meaning. She guided him toward a window carved from living crystal. Outside, the alien plain stretched endlessly under the twin suns. Strange creatures moved in patterns that resembled dancing light, and distant mountains shifted like gentle waves. She pointed with a delicate hand toward the horizon, and then toward him, as if showing that she wanted him to see the world as she saw it. Jace knelt beside her, mesmerized. The colors, the motion, the harmony of everything around them. It was a universe alive in a way he had never imagined. And somehow, he felt connected to her, and to something larger than himself all at once. The silence between them was not empty. It was filled with emotion, with understanding, with a shared recognition of trust. Jace's hand brushed against hers, intentionally this time, and she didn't pull away. She tilted her head, a subtle invitation to come closer, to be present in the moment without fear. He realized that this small space, this locked room, had become a sanctuary, a place where both could explore what connection truly meant. As he allowed himself to truly feel, Jace noticed the subtle changes in her. Her skin shimmered brighter with each heartbeat, a faint glow of excitement or emotion. Her eyes reflected not just light but thought, curiosity, and a quiet, unspoken bond. For the first time, he felt the weight of humanity in this room, not in orders, not in strategy, but in presence, in attention, in the ability to connect with another sentient being. Minutes passed, or maybe hours, it was impossible to tell. They moved closer, their hands intertwined now, exploring the unspoken language between them. He could sense her thoughts, her cautious curiosity, her willingness to trust. And in turn, he opened himself to that trust, feeling a sense of wonder he had never experienced. It was not desire, not fear, not dominance, but understanding. He understood her in ways that transcended words, and she seemed to understand him equally. Finally, he rested his forehead gently against hers, and she mirrored the gesture. In that quiet, suspended moment, Jace felt an unspoken promise form between them, a promise of connection, of recognition, of respect, and of a shared journey into the unknown. He knew that whatever awaited them outside this room, nothing could undo the bond that had begun here, in this strange, glowing sanctuary. The world outside could wait. Here, in this room, the first true connection between human and alien had been made, a connection that would change everything for him, for her, and perhaps for humanity itself. And in that suspended silence, Jace finally allowed himself to believe in something greater than duty, the power of understanding, trust, and a connection that transcended even the boundaries of species. Jace and the alien had been in the glowing chamber for what felt like hours, wrapped in a fragile bubble of connection. Outside, however, the world continued its rhythm, unaware of the quiet miracle unfolding within. Suddenly, a distant hum broke the stillness, a sound of patrol ships scanning the settlement. The soft vibration grew louder, and then the faint clicks of mechanized feet echoed through the crystal halls. Jace's instincts snapped into action. He knew that anyone discovering them together could spark suspicion, fear, or worse, hostility. He glanced at her, expecting panic, but she did not flinch. She stood close, almost shield-like, her presence steadying him. Her eyes, glowing faintly silver, met his with a calm that belied the urgency outside. Jace realized something profound. This moment wasn't just about them. It was about trust, about whether he could protect what was delicate and precious without fear dictating his actions. The door had locked them inside, a silent barrier between them and the outside world. Jace's hand hovered over the control panel, tempted to override the mechanism to open it and escape back into familiar safety. Yet she placed a hand on his chest, light but firm, grounding him. No words were spoken, but the gesture carried more weight than any command. She wasn't asking him to fight or to flee. She was telling him to stay, to trust, to honor the fragile connection they had formed. Outside, the patrol voices grew clearer, a mixture of caution and suspicion. The alien senses around the room seemed to hum in tension, reacting to the outside threat. Jace felt a bead of sweat run down his temple, his heart hammering against his ribs. He was a trained commander, experienced in diplomacy and conflict, yet nothing in his past could have prepared him for this emotional battlefield. The threat wasn't physical, it was the possibility of losing the fragile trust between them. And for the first time, he realized that this trust was more important than any mission, any protocol, any order. She moved closer, her hand never leaving his chest, her eyes locked on his. There was no fear, no hesitation, only certainty, only confidence in him. It was a challenge and a reassurance at once. Jace understood that she wasn't afraid of the patrol. She trusted him enough to remain here, to face whatever might come, knowing he would not betray her confidence. That realization struck him with overwhelming clarity. He couldn't fail her. He couldn't fail this connection. The hum outside grew into a low resonance, vibrating through the walls and under their feet. Jace's mind raced. If the patrol discovered them, they would demand answers, explanations, possibly force separation. He clenched his fists briefly, then relaxed. The choice was simple, yet terrifying. Follow orders and leave, or honor the trust she had placed in him. His heart, pounding with both fear and determination, chose the latter. For the first time, Jace felt what it meant to be human in the presence of something completely alien. The capacity to understand, to feel, to make a choice based on empathy rather than protocol. He reached for her hand, holding it firmly, letting her know that he was here and that he would not abandon her. She responded with a faint, almost imperceptible smile, a glow of reassurance that steadied his nerves. Minutes stretched like hours as the patrol voices faded slightly, confused by the lack of response from the chamber. Inside, the bond between them strengthened, tested but unbroken. Jace felt a swell of pride, not for conquest, not for success, but for protecting something fragile and beautiful. He realized that this moment, this trust, was far more significant than any mission report or starship log could ever capture. Finally, the hum outside subsided, leaving only the quiet pulse of the living room and the steady beat of their hearts. Jace exhaled, feeling the tension drain from his body. She stepped closer, her hand still in his, and he knew, without doubt, that whatever danger lay outside, whatever uncertainty awaited, their connection had survived its first trial. And in that quiet, suspended moment, Jace understood the most important lesson of all. True strength was not in domination or fear, but in trust, courage, and the willingness to protect what truly mattered. The room fell into quiet once more. Jace and the alien stood near the floating orbs of light, their hands still lightly touching, hearts beating in rhythm with the subtle hum of the chamber. The danger outside had passed, but something heavier now filled the air, a sense of understanding, of recognition that went deeper than words could describe. Jace realized that what he felt was not just fascination or curiosity. It was a profound connection, something that reached beyond species, beyond culture, beyond everything he had ever known. She stepped closer, her hand brushing against his arm in a gesture that seemed to ripple with energy. Then softly, she whispered a sound, not a word in any language he knew, but a vibration that resonated through the air and settled in his chest. Jace felt it deep inside, like a chord struck in the heart. It was not threatening. It was not commanding. It was understanding. For the first time, he sensed what it truly meant to communicate without language, to share thought, emotion, and intent in its purest form. He looked into her eyes, wide and luminous, and saw something that startled him, a depth of intelligence and emotion that went beyond observation. She was revealing a part of herself, showing him who she truly was. And as he absorbed it, Jace felt a shift inside him. All the barriers he had built, training, caution, protocol, began to dissolve. He realized he did not just want to understand her, he wanted to be understood by her. The connection was mutual, a bridge spanning the impossible gulf between human and alien. She moved to the center of the room and raised her hand slowly. The floating plants around them responded, swirling and glowing brighter. Jace realized the space itself was alive, reacting to their emotions. Every heartbeat, every breath, every glance between them seemed to send waves through the chamber. He had studied alien habitats, but never had he seen such responsiveness to emotion. The room was not just a shelter. It was a living reflection of trust, curiosity, and the bond forming between them. Then she did something unexpected. She extended both hands toward him, and for a moment Jace hesitated. It was a simple gesture, yet charged with significance. When he placed his hands in hers, a wave of sensation coursed through him. Not pain, not pleasure, but something deeper, a connection of awareness. He felt a rush of understanding, as though he could sense her thoughts, her memories, the patterns of her life, and yet it was not overwhelming. It was a gift, a revelation. He realized that she was offering him a glimpse of her world, not through words, but through emotion and perception. Jace's chest tightened as he responded in kind. He let himself focus entirely on the connection, allowing his own feelings, his own thoughts, his own hopes to flow into the shared space. The room pulsed with their presence, brighter with each passing second. He understood then that the door behind them, the isolation, the risk, they had all led to this moment. Without the barriers, without the quiet sanctuary of the locked chamber, this revelation could never have happened. For the first time, Jace understood what it meant to truly meet another being. Not just to observe, not just to study, but to connect in a way that transcended biology, language, and logic. And she, the alien woman, had chosen him as her companion in this shared discovery. Her eyes glimmered with faint silver light, conveying pride, curiosity, and trust. And in response, Jace felt an unshakable certainty that he would never betray her confidence, that he would protect this bond no matter what challenges lay ahead. The revelation left them both breathless. They stood in quiet awe, hearts and minds entwined, connected in a way that defied reason but felt completely natural. Jace realized this moment was not just about human and alien meeting. It was about understanding, about the power of trust, about the courage to open oneself to another being fully. And as he looked into her eyes, silver light dancing across her skin, he knew something profound. Whatever happened next, whatever dangers awaited outside, their connection had changed them both forever. The hum of the settlement outside was growing again, faint but insistent. Patrols had resumed their watch, their movements precise and careful. Jace knew that the moment of peace would not last forever. He glanced at the alien woman beside him, her silver eyes calm and unwavering. The bond they shared felt unbreakable, but he understood that it would be tested soon. Whatever steps he took next would define not only their connection, but also his understanding of humanity's role in this alien world. He moved closer to her, taking her hand in his. The subtle warmth of her skin against his palm was grounding, a quiet reassurance in the face of rising tension. She looked at him, and in her gaze he read the same thought. They could not simply wait. They had to move, and they had to do it together. The living chamber responded almost immediately, the floating lights swirling and rising as if sensing their intent. The walls pulsed faintly, guiding them toward a secondary exit Jace had not noticed before. They stepped carefully, every movement deliberate. Jace kept one hand on the door panel, ready to unlock it if necessary, but she did not pull away. Her presence steadied him, and he realized that the fear he felt was nothing compared to the courage she radiated. She led him through a narrow passage that twisted and turned like a river of crystal. Every surface shimmered with a gentle glow, and the soft hum of the structure resonated in rhythm with their heartbeats. He felt as though the building itself was aiding them, protecting their fragile connection. As they approached a larger chamber, a sudden vibration shook the floor. Jace froze. A patrol had noticed a disturbance. Outside, he could hear the low, mechanical hum of their approach. The alien woman pressed a hand to his chest, stopping him from moving too fast. Her eyes met his and she conveyed a simple but powerful message: trust her. He nodded, swallowing the tension that threatened to overwhelm him. Together, they stepped into the center of the chamber. The floating lights rose higher, circling around them, forming a protective barrier. The alien extended her hands and Jace followed her lead instinctively. The energy around them thickened, almost tangible, and for a moment the patrol outside faltered. They could not understand what was happening, could not predict the sudden surge of energy emanating from the structure. And in that moment, Jace realized something important. The connection he shared with her was not just emotional, it was powerful. It had a presence that extended beyond themselves, reaching into the world in ways that even technology could not measure. The secondary door slid open, revealing a narrow path toward the open plains. Jace glanced outside. The twin suns were low in the sky, casting long shadows across the alien terrain. Strange creatures moved among the glowing plants, seemingly oblivious to the humans and aliens emerging from the structure. He took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of the alien world beneath his feet. She squeezed his hand, silently urging him forward, and together they stepped into the open air. The wind, light but alive, rushed past them, carrying the scent of alien flowers and the warmth of the setting suns. Jace looked at her, and in that moment he understood the depth of their journey. They had risked protocol, risked judgment, risked everything, and yet they had emerged together. Outside, the patrol hesitated, sensing the bond between them, sensing that their presence was no longer a threat but a phenomenon beyond comprehension. They moved forward, hand in hand, hearts and minds aligned. The glowing plains stretched endlessly before them, promising freedom, discovery, and a shared future. Jace realized that humanity's strength was not in weapons or orders. It was in courage, understanding, and the willingness to trust beyond fear. And as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, he knew that this escape was not an ending but a beginning of something extraordinary, something neither species could have imagined alone. The twin suns had almost disappeared behind the distant mountains, leaving streaks of gold and violet across the alien sky. Jace and the alien woman walked side by side through the glowing plains, their hands still intertwined. Each step felt like a statement, a declaration that they had chosen trust, courage, and connection over fear and isolation. The soft luminescence of the plants lit their path, reflecting in her silver skin, making her glow as if the world itself approved of their union. Jace paused for a moment, taking in the vastness around them. The world stretched endlessly, beautiful and unpredictable, yet he no longer felt small or powerless. Beside him, she looked at him with quiet intensity, as if reading the thoughts he didn't speak. He realized that this bond they shared had changed him, reshaped him in ways he could not fully describe. Humanity's true power, he understood now, was not in weapons or technology, but in the ability to connect, to empathize, to honor trust and courage in the face of uncertainty. They stopped near a crystalline lake that shimmered with every color of the sunset. The water was calm, reflecting the sky like a mirror. She knelt beside it and Jace followed, watching her movements. There was grace in everything she did, a beauty in simplicity. She reached toward him and he knelt opposite her. Their hands met over the surface of the water, fingers touching lightly. Waves of emotion radiated outward, as if the lake itself recognized their bond. In that moment, Jace felt that humanity's potential had expanded, not through conquest or science, but through understanding and connection. She whispered a sound, soft and musical, and this time Jace felt it fully, deep in his chest. He realized that she was sharing a vision with him, not just of her world but of possibilities for both species. He saw cities of crystal and light, communities where humans and aliens worked together, and a future that shimmered with promise. The images were fleeting, like reflections on water, but they were powerful, planting a seed of hope and ambition in his mind. He understood that their journey together could become more than personal. It could redefine what humanity meant in the universe. For the first time, Jace allowed himself to smile without restraint. She mirrored his expression, her eyes lighting up with subtle silver sparks. They had survived fear, uncertainty, and the unknown. They had chosen to trust, and that choice had led them to a moment of clarity and profound understanding. He realized that this was the essence of humanity's strength, the courage to reach beyond what is familiar, to connect deeply, and to honor the value of another life, even when it seems impossible. The night fell slowly, stars appearing one by one in the darkening sky. The glowing floor of the plains created a soft carpet of light beneath their feet, guiding them forward. Jace stood and extended his hand. She took it without hesitation, and together they began to walk toward the horizon, toward the unknown. Every step was a promise, not just of survival, but of unity, of partnership, and of hope. Jace paused once more and looked back at the crystalline settlement they had left behind. The walls shimmered faintly in the distance, quiet witnesses to what had occurred inside. He knew that humanity had gained something invaluable, a glimpse of what was possible when trust, empathy, and courage were chosen over fear and division. And he knew, with certainty, that this was only the beginning. As they walked into the open plains, their forms bathed in the last rays of the twin suns, Jace felt a sense of completion and anticipation all at once. The locked door, the dangers, the uncertainty, they had not trapped them. Instead, they had created a space where understanding, connection, and courage could grow. And in that moment, he understood that humanity's greatest victories would not always be fought with weapons or strategy, but with empathy, bravery, and the willingness to step forward into the unknown with trust. Hand in hand, human and alien moved forward, leaving behind fear and doubt, stepping into a future where both species could thrive. And for Jace, the knowledge was absolute. Their bond, born in a locked room of glowing crystal, had shown him the true meaning of humanity's strength in the universe.